Hey y'all, welcome to Cornbread and Roses. I'm Austin, your friendly neighborhood organizer, and I got a couple co-hosts here tonight. We got Robert and Jason,
Hello, comrades.
Hello.
and we also have a guest tonight, Violet, who's going to be talking a little bit about a political study group. And
Hello.
yeah, hopefully I'll find the flyer for that before we get to it. But yeah, welcome y'all. It's good to have y'all here. Good to be here, fighting the good fight, and let's get to it. Let's see here. We're gonna start over here with a couple memes and get to our conspiracy of the week, and then we'll move on to the what is it called? The legislative session that's in this fancy word, sine die now.
Sine
Anybody?
die.
Sine die, sine die. We could, or sin and die. That's what they could be doing up there for us. But here we go. Sine die. Ooh, I forgot you're a linguist, Jay. But we got Bluey here. Guillotines need gravity to work, and his buddy. That's why billionaires want to go to space. Indeed, indeed. Let's see what else we got. Uh, heard about our new neighbors, the Afrikaners, are coming to Alabama. There's some. They're going to Mountain Brook apparently, and somebody on Facebook asked, "Do we need to be concerned that they will eat our cats and dogs?" And got the little Luigi face as well. And yeah, if you don't know, all the hubbub about immigrants and eating the cats and dogs during the election.
I think he froze. Quick, someone do a shtick. Hana.
Are these South Africans going to Huntsville?
I wasn't able to find information about where in Alabama. I just knew that they were coming to Alabama. I guess Mountain Brook is one of the areas they're coming to.
Probably not Huntsville. They're already chalked up on former German segregationists.
I know, right? We're already stocked out. Well, I mean, Huntsville, like we Operation Paperclipped a bunch of Nazis into Huntsville.
Yeah.
Including, and we put like Werner von Braun's name on our buildings and things like that, even though von Braun was a member of the SS. And people say he didn't, well, he joined under duress, but he didn't have to.
Yeah, that's even if he did, that's like a foundational aspect of his development.
Well, that and the Jewish slave labor that was used to build his rockets that he didn't care about.
Yeah, it's just a really annoying excuse people make to try to justify why a Nazi is the symbol of the city.
Yeah, it's very depressing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, where did the Afrikaners go in Alabama?
Well, the Twitter AI keeps referencing a song from South African communists that I think we could probably sing to welcome these white South Africans in.
The one called "Kill the Boer."
Yeah.
Or however you say it. So let's see. I'm reading an article from AL.com, and it doesn't say where.
Probably for the best.
Oh, wait. All right. Global Ties Alabama, based in Huntsville, was expecting 3 refugee families within days of Trump's January 24th order ending the program. So, well, at least one group working on resettling them is based in Huntsville. Global Ties Alabama. Let's look them up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this group. So they're an affiliate of the Episcopal Migration Ministries. But the Episcopal Church announced on Mondays that it would halt all operations because they're not going to help resettle Afrikaners for this made-up white genocide nonsense. Which good for the Episcopalian Church. So yeah, I guess we're not going to get Austin back anytime soon. Violet, do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about your study group?
Yeah, so every Friday there'll be a documentary stream where I will stream some documentary, usually about imperialism. Like the first one will be Gaza Fights for Freedom. And then on Sundays there will be a article of the same general topic. The first one will be Fascism at Home and Colonialism Abroad by Walter Rodney. Right now I'm trying to have a flyer distribution. So if anyone would be able to help with that, that would be very appreciated.
Okay, well, I can put up a flyer at our coffee social, and I'm happy to drive around places in town and hang up flyers. But is there a place people can go to get more information about the group and find out how they can get involved?
Yeah. On the flyer itself, it has a link to a document that has everything.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I think Austin was going to share the flyer. Maybe when he comes back, he'll be able to share it. So is that like is it a DSA thing, or is it something you're doing on your own, or?
It's something I'm doing on my own with a few comrades helping.
That's cool. So the first documentary is Gaza Fights for Freedom. Oh, here we go.
We're the most unprofessional podcast in the land.
It's all right. We made jokes at the Afrikaners' expense.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I googled the lyrics to Kill the Boar.
I've been trying to remind myself to listen to that this week, and I keep forgetting. Let's see. Where are we at?
It is sung in Xhosa or Zulu. That's interesting. Or it's Xhosa with the lateral click. Sorry.
What was your question about the documentary?
Oh, so I just wanted to get people more information about how they could get involved, and I guess Austin's going to show the flyer.
Yes. If you're patient with me and keep with the jokes. But I had a few more memes, but I guess we'll shit can those. Dogs. But yeah, the flyer, 2 seconds, and I will have that for y'all. Oh my goodness. Almost there, and boom. Look at that. So Violet, you were talking about this?
Yes. Uh, do you have any questions about it?
So, what like what got you motivated to do it?
Well, generally, it seems like there's a lack of grounded understanding of what imperialism fundamentally is, of its general dynamics and effects. And that's particularly relevant here in Huntsville, in North Alabama, given the prevalence of the military contractors. That's one of the primary contradictions in North Alabama. Things like gentrification are driven by the expansion of the military contracting industries. So it's extremely important to uh, organizers here to have a cohesive understanding of this particular issue.
Yeah, the it seems in a manner that uh, if not what we're looking at $1 trillion now for our defense budget,
Hmm.
and almost like the military industrial complex is almost a jobs program where we could be having different type jobs.
Hmm.
I
For
have,
instance, go
even
ahead.
though I work in technology, I have deliberately structured my work career so that I have avoided working for the defense industry. Like I've always worked for companies that didn't do anything with the defense industry. I actually quit a job in California when I found out our biggest customer was the DoD. I had no idea because we did medical records. And it turns out our biggest customer was the DoD, and I was like, well, I can't do this job anymore.
All right, so yeah, for a lot of people, it is possible to avoid working for these industries, even if it seems like it's the most easily reached one in the area. There's nearly always some alternative if you put enough effort in searching for it.
I've there were a couple of times. There were a couple of times, especially early in my career, where I went a little while without having a professional job. Um, but ever since I got my first professional job, I've had a steady stream of them, and I've never had to work for the defense industry, even though I still benefit from the economy that Huntsville has, which is propped up
Yeah.
by the defense industry. I have at least avoided working directly for them. And when I explain this to people and why, they look at me like I've grown a second head. Like there's just no understanding of what that's tied to here. And they'll say like, "Oh, our weapons are for defense." I'm like, "Have you read the newspaper lately?" Like, no, they're not. That's not what they're being used for.
That's not what they've ever been used for in the United States.
So,
Well, did help beat the Nazis. That's about and the slavers, but that's about it. Is what
Yeah.
it seems like.
I think the modern day military industrial complex was something that probably grew out of World War II, but didn't pick up steam until after it. And it was after World War II that President Eisenhower gave his famous warning about the military industrial complex. And so I'd like to see a little bit more about that history, and hopefully these documentaries will be a good way to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and actually, you know, something that I learned is like even Douglas MacArthur's crazy ass called for, while he was Army Chief of Staff, a 90% tax on war profits. In like 1932, 1933, he tried to get try to, get a bill done. He wasn't in Congress; he was a chief of staff, but he tried to get that momentum going, and it died. Oh, we already got one person who's going to join, Violet. Thank you, Corey. Yeah, we hope to see you there. But Robert, uh, have you had ever any experience with the military industrial complex, or starting or being in part of a study group?
I've been a part of 2 or 3 different study groups. I actually, because I'm literally adding a secret 5th job pretty soon in June, I just don't have the time currently. But if I do make time, I'll try to come Violet, number 1. But number 2, yeah, my family served in the military going back to at least the Civil War. I'm actually the aberrant member of the group because I'm trying to think. Outside of me and my father, my stepfather, both of my grandfathers, great grandfather, grandmother, great grandmother, all served in the military. Out of the 17 living adults going back to great grandfather who's dead, I think 15 of them served in the military. So very acquainted with that and all that comes with it.
They will wear you out, man. That's a rich history. I don't even know if my family's service history is that rich. But, yeah, I've not most all, but a whole lot of my family have been in service. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
will say.
Yeah.
I will say it's one of those issues where being in the military for a lot of individuals, especially Black individuals, was probably the best available job until post 72. And again, it's within still to this day top 15 best jobs due to military color of code protections where, and most of the time, I can't say all the time because it is still a institution. Most of the time, individuals are both protected and hindered by the rules, which is a leg up for a lot of Black people not having to worry about something like getting denied credit to buy a house or to start a business. There is, of course, still the stalemate around officers, where in a lot of cases you still don't see a proportionally correct amount of officers of color, in part due to the upper echelon of military favoritism and internal politicking, where most of the time you have to kiss butt. And some members are very clear, like, I'm going to follow the rules. I expect there to be rewards for such. I don't have to kiss anyone's butt. And you don't normally make it past captain if you don't, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. I had I've had various commanders that were Black, women, um, uh, colonel. There was a woman. One of my deployments, all my officers in my direct chain, except for the commander, were all Black folks. So I experienced a lot of diversity when I was in the military, a lot of it. And I think at one point, like when I was during my first deployment in the motor pool, I might have been one of 2 or 3 white dudes. Everybody else was Filipino, Brazil, Puerto Rican. Shoot, there's one dude, white dude. He was from, oh goodness, I want to say Bulgaria. But yeah, I experienced a lot of diversity in the military, and yeah, it's working class folks that join up for the most part, especially nowadays. There used to be definitely that elitism. Not that I'm not saying it's not still there, but where rich families were the officers, or people from rich families were the officers back in the day. But a lot of that has been leveled. It's still not perfect, but yeah. And as far as I know, y'all, it's the only job in the country where you can work 20 years and get a retirement.
Yeah,
I don't even go ahead.
I know a Vietnam veteran who literally escaped sharecropping by joining the Marine Corps, and that was his only option.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to fault people who are caught in that situation. Even if it's not the choice I would have made.
Yeah.
And also, there's the fact that a lot of people get put in positions of choices being made after the fact. So there's a lot of people go, okay, I'll go in the military for 4 years, study journalism, try to get a security clearance, and then, make some money off of that. But then they give you an offer you can't refuse. Like I had a family member that was going to get out, and they were like, hey, we consider you valuable. So here's what we're going to do. You have any kids? Yeah. We're in your next contract, it'll be dictated that your kid will be able to go to school wherever they want in the entire contiguous United States for free. Well above and beyond what we normally would give through the GI Bill. Now, you can turn this down, but by the time your kid is 18, 10, 15 years from now, your GI Bill and whatever perks you've got here may not cut it. We're offering you blank slate, whatever the cost, because you are valuable to us. We've measured it out somewhere between $100,000 to $200,000 for you to stay in. And
yeah.
And he was just like, Well,
that's something hard. Yeah, that's hard for a parent to turn down, is a guaranteed education of that level for their child. But I'm hoping my kids over here will be able to use those benefits as well. But Violet, what do you got planned as your first documentary or article?
When you were having technical difficulties,
Y'all already covered this, huh? Okay.
I said Gaza fights for freedom and Fascism at Home, Colonialism Abroad by Walter Rodney.
Okay. Outstanding. Yeah.
Robert, when you said something about 1972 specifically being the point of decline of the significance of military employment for Black people, what do you think why it's specifically 1972?
That was the decline of specifically the legal justice around a lot of the original Jim Crow actions. It's also around the same time that the Civil Rights Act fully kicked in and was active and effective for most of the country. Certain documents, certain laws take a little while to actually trickle down. A great example being Loving v. Virginia, which allows interracial marriage, was decided in like 64 or 65, somewhere between 64 and 67, 1964 to 1967. It wasn't fully accumulated into the states where even the states were passing pro-immigration marriage bills until 2000, with Alabama being the last one. A lot of the policy we would love to see just takes so long. Mm-hmm. And even then, I would still say going into 72 through the 70s in total, it still would be top 15 until you get to the 80s. But that's also one of those issues that pops up where things mysteriously get more expensive when too many brown people start to be a part of it. It's not a coincidence that Black people get allegedly the same rights to college, and then college comes up with this brand new idea of proportional tuition that increases every year to try to make sure the lowest income earners aren't able to go. when you're saying, hey, we have to have public pools integrated, all of a sudden those public pools get turned into country clubs. So 72 is around the time where it was considered culturally acceptable to start hiring people. And if you didn't, there was a governmental backlash to it.
It's outstanding history. Appreciate that. Good question, Violet. Thank you. I seem to remember that 1980-ish was when these colleges started really raising their rates. And you trace so much back to Reagan, and even honestly, like I learned the other day, right before that, that Carter actually started the neoliberal process in the latter part of his term. So we got him to think as well. So, but yeah, Violet, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the group before we move on?
Not that I can think of. I guess if anyone wants to suggest anything, like any articles or documentaries, they can whenever the streams start.
Yeah, and I will say I got to study Hammer and Hoe with Violet, y'all, and I can't express what a great experience it was, and how well you did on just the questions and your knowledge on everything. Like, you are a fountain of knowledge, and I certainly appreciate you. I learned a lot, so thank you personally.
And thank you for showing up whenever you could.
Yeah, it gets a little dicey on Sundays for me, but I'm gonna do my best. It's all about, like, I tell you what, folks, family life, it'll take it out of you. It sure will.
Yeah.
But yeah, are you gonna stick around? Talk about this legislative session that's in. Wait, how do we say it, Jay? Sign and die, Sine day.
Sine DA.
Sine DA. Thank you. You gonna stick around, Violet?
Yeah, I will.
Excellent. All right.
It's not sign die.
Sign and die. That's what they doing to us, though. They signing shit and then we die. But
Fair
I
point.
think we're gonna start with this. We're gonna do this week, Jay.
Yeah, sure. I'm really only prepared for this week.
There
So
was a couple. Yeah, I was prepared last week for last week, and then Mother's Day, and that, like I said, family first, y'all. But and we might get to them, but there was a couple interesting bills that I saw from the previous week. But here we go with the week of May 14th, y'all. You'd like to take it away?
I can. So let's see. One bill that I kind of had mixed feelings about. Well, I don't have mixed feelings about it, but SB 289, sponsored by Senator Arthur Orr from Decatur, requires public schools to teach a success sequence twice before graduation in order to prevent poverty after high school. But the problem, like the cause of poverty, is not that people need to be taught how to not be poor, right? Like, it's going to, the bill passed 92-0 is going to Kay Ivey, who will probably sign it, but it's just such a wrong-headed idea of the causes of poverty, to say that, oh, if we teach this success sequence twice in Alabama high schools, that no one will be poor. I found that to be a bit dubious.
Yeah, it's like education theater a bit, And thank you for that comment, Marissa. Yeah, I don't see it in this legislative session, but I do remember that's actually last week. Something I saw is they had created a a diploma program for, in their words, dropouts. You know, maybe figure out why kids aren't dropping out, but they've created a track for folks dropping out of high school, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, what do they teach in that class? That's a good question, Corey. I know this, that in ninth grade, for whatever reason, they teach all of these kids, at least around here, a career preparedness course, which apparently is basically just them sitting in front of a computer monitor, clicking on little questions with not a whole lot of interaction from the teacher. So I'm assuming it's something along those lines. But yeah, I hate the Alabama curriculum that's right now. Like, it's one semester English, one semester math, one semester history, one semester English. And like the school around here, they don't have foreign language. They got a couple things, and I'm not saying that the teachers aren't able to do aren't able to do good teaching or whatever, but the curriculum dictates what they're doing, right? And that's decided not at the school. Right. So what else we got there?
So when I Google Alabama success sequence, the thing that pops up is the Institute for Family Studies, which, right, exactly. You can guess where they're coming from.
Tell me, Robert, did you have some thoughts on universal education or the education system in general going on in the state?
It's garbage. I don't know what else to tell you.
All right, so my instincts are correct. I feel validated.
Well, no. So it's not the teachers not doing a good enough job, because they're doing the best they can with what little resources they're given. I think we're about as good as we can be without any more resources. But there's certain things you can't educate your way out of. One of them being a very simple math problem. If the average wage of Alabamians, let's say specifically Gadsden members, is we'll say $9. That is what the average wage for members of that region of Etowah County would get in a day-to-day basis. Managers would get $13, but most people are not making above $15 unless they work in a factory and are liable to burn themselves out in 5 to 10 years, but still have to find money from somewhere else after their knees are gone. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm doing the math in my head. So you'd only get, 9 times 40, about 360 times 4 is about 1,200. So you only get about $1,500 per month out of your job. And
before taxes.
We'll kick that down to about $1,100 per month. Now, first things first, we're going to take your rent. That's going to be $800 minimum. So you've went from $1,100 to $300. Now we're taking your power. That's $300 right there if it's in the wintertime. So now you are down to $1, and that $1 needs to stretch for food, for any potential emergencies, for potentially water bill, trash bill, insurance for your car, gas for your car, So you're negative 1,500.
Yeah, we're getting squeezed beyond all reasonable limits. The material conditions are rapidly changing for folks. I saw something the other day that to meet like the 1970 minimum wage buying power for housing, you would need something like $66 today, through, on average in the United States, which is not even close. Not even close to what most people get. $66 would put you, I think, definitely in the top 10% of earners in the country. And that's where the housing market's at.
Which is a whole nother problem because you can't sell people a dream of owning a house when they don't have 30,000 to put down. You're like, hey, you start off with you need $30,000 raised just sitting in your back pocket for no emergencies like a cancer surgery or something else like that. You got to pay a copay for before you even get to that point. On top of the fact that, yeah, one of those issues is also out of the 80s, the minimum wage stopped occurring. Ugh, words. The minimum wage stopped accruing to the point that is relative to the cost of living under Reagan. And then every single conservative after that has been pretty clear about not pushing the envelope because people just need to make negative dollars work, which some people do make negative dollars work through criminality. There's a lot of people that commit crimes simply because there literally is no resources available to them, let alone if they're falsely convicted of a crime and then a whole bunch of resources that normally would be available aren't because of that same system. It drives them further into the poverty, criminality complex.
Yeah.
Also, like in general, we haven't had a minimum wage increase in 17 years.
Yeah. Wild. That's just such a wild little stat right there. 17 years. And I heard Mike Johnson crying this week that Congress that makes six figures, that they haven't had an increase in 9 years. So yeah, keep crying, Mike. But all right, Jay. Oh, go on.
I was just say yes. It's one of those yes and no situations. I understand if someone who is trying to represent at a governmental level people is having trouble with it because a lot of governmental positions are based in the capital. So most people would have to have, at least with Congress, most people have to have at least two homes. One, they rent somewhere near Washington, D.C. so they can make that D.C. Metro train and get there roughly on time. And a second one for the rest of their family to actually live in.
Well, they can all live in a barracks like I did. How about that? Just a congressional barracks. We don't have to give them a raise. Problem solved.
So the success sequence. Someone asked what this class teaches. It teaches this. If you have to follow this success sequence of doing these three things, and you'll achieve the American dream. Number one is get at least a high school education. Number two is work full time, and number three is marry before having children.
That's what they're going to teach.
That's what they're going to teach. Yes.
Oh my God.
But they're not going to teach, hey, for those who are potentially going to be sexually active, the pull-out method does not work.
Right, like abstinence-only education has been shown not to work.
Yeah, because it fails. It fails automatically when they're like, "Hey, don't have any kids before marriage," but then you don't give them the tools to teach them how to not have kids before marriage.
Yeah, but it's not like marriage is going to raise their paycheck, And there's that thought that like two people, now you got a roommate, sure, and y'all can split up some bills, but That's
So that's the success sequence. That's what they're going to be teaching.
that is preposterous, but I'm
Yes,
not
I agree.
surprised.
I agree. Even by their own standards, that would make no sense and doesn't work.
And work full time for your $7 an hour and escape poverty.
$7.25. $7.25.
Stand corrected.
Which, mind you, that is not Alabama's minimum wage. Alabama does not have a minimum wage. We're just forced to pay $7.25 by the federal government. If the Supreme Court ever decides that that is considered governmental overreach, Alabama's minimum wage will be $0, and then they'll probably legislate it back up to $4 an hour. I say $4 an hour because there have been 2 or 3 legislature members who suggested $4 an hour when Birmingham tried to raise their minimum wage.
Hell, it was $2 an hour in the 1970. $2.10, I think. Or maybe that was 75. But all right. What else we got that Meemaw's gonna sign this week?
So SB 63, sponsored by Senator Lance Bell from Pell City, allows state law enforcement to collect DNA from those suspected of being in the country without legal status to be processed at the state level. So they can collect DNA and fingerprints from people they suspect of being in the country without legal status. The bill passed 76-7 and goes to Kay Ivey. So you don't even have to be convicted of anything. They can just take it. And this is from the same house that 12 days ago passed a bill that would criminalize the use of someone's genetic material without their approval. So, like, they created this genetic theft crime so that you can't sell or transfer the DNA of other people without their consent. Like, it sounds like some real incel type stuff to me about, like, oh, she's stealing my whatever.
No, I think I will need to go for now, but it was nice to talk here. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to have you back on, and we can't just wait to see you at the documentary and readings. You hang tough. Solidarity.
Solidarity. Bye.
Bye.
Wait, quick question. Are you saying I must have missed you. Are you saying that they banned the selling of DNA?
Yeah, so they passed a bill saying that it creates the crime of genetic theft. So you can't sell or transfer other people's DNA without their consent.
Okay, well, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad bill just because situations like Henrietta Lacks sometimes pops up. But pairing it with this, yeah, that's...
So I think that the bill was designed to handle like situations like what was Ancestry or 23andMe. One of them shut down, and there was this concern that they might turn around and sell all the data that they had as they liquidated their assets. And so I think the bill was designed to solve that problem. But then they turn around and pass this bill saying that without legal status, you can collect DNA from, or without due process, you can collect DNA from people suspected of being in the country without legal status. I don't know.
Yeah, that's frustrating because Supreme Court's already ruled anyone that looks like illegal status could be checked, and they notated it being anything that is different from the current. I forgot what it was. It was like the current system / visage, essentially just giving the full carte blanche with anyone that has tan skin and a so-called Mexican haircut. Which
fuck is a Mexican haircut?
I don't know. All I know is a lot of people fall under browner than beige and has curly hair on their head.
Oh my goodness. Oh, just good old racism. Just plain and simple. Nothing more complicated than that. Oh,
So a good bill, SB 76, sponsored by Senator April Weaver, exempts nursing mothers from jury service. That was after the dust up earlier, a couple of months ago, when a woman got admonished by a judge for not being able to really serve on a jury due to having to feed her infant. So they passed a bill exempting nursing mothers from jury service, and that bill goes to Kay Ivey.
yeah, they were all about that at the beginning of the session too, and like, oh, we're gonna get this done. It took them all the way till just about the last day to get it done. Well, the last day, I guess, but I don't know why that was so hard.
SB 101, sponsored by Larry Strutz or Tuscumbia, is an anti-trans bill. It raises the medical age of consent from 14 to 16 with some exceptions. The bill goes to Kay Ivey. Like, this bill was motivated by a desire to prevent teenagers from making their decisions about their medical care. So it was like, 14-year-olds can choose to medically transition. And we can't have that. So,
Or vaccines.
yeah, or vaccines as well. That was the other thing too.
Yeah, who would win, y'all? 100 men or the measles?
Ugh.
Oh, it looks like we lost Robert. I'm sure we'll get them back. All right. Oh, there he comes. Welcome back. All right. What else we got?
So that's it for the last day in office. The other thing they passed and Kay Ivey signed the bill that we discussed, limiting the liability of police officers. So basically, it'll be all but impossible to hold police officers accountable for any mistreatment that they happen to do while you're in their custody or being taken into their custody. So the Back the Blue Act passed and was signed by Kay Ivey on Thursday. They passed it in the last few minutes of the legislative session because the Democrats actually, for wrong reasons, did the right thing, right? Like, Democrats in the Senate were upset over the failure of a gambling bill that affected only Greene County. It was the Greene County horse racing bill that we talked about previously. So basically, it would allow betting on past horse races. And it was basically a way to sneak in slot machines, because the way the bill was written, you were betting on the horse race, but the screen could show almost anything as long as it also showed the results of the horse race. So you could have like a little small window in the bottom that showed the results of the horse race, but it'd be a slot machine in the rest of the screen. And so Democrats got upset because that bill wasn't given fair consideration and filibustered the last couple of days of the Senate. So they got up and insisted, like, they read from the newspaper, they gave long-winded speeches, and insisted that the full text of every bill be read into the record. So the Republicans invoked cloture a number of times in order to limit speaking to 20 minutes. But even so, with the 20-minute speaking combined with the having to read the bills out loud, managed to slow down the adoption of bills to a crawl. And so there were several things that didn't make it this session as a result.
Right. Yeah, I looked on the ACLU site if they mentioned anything about the lack of accountability for cops bill that got passed, and they haven't posted anything yet, but I have to assume that some group of lawyers out there is going to challenge this, and we will see how that goes.
So basically, yeah, I mean, it gives immunity to law enforcement officers from civil liability. It establishes immunity for law enforcement officers from criminal prosecution to provide exceptions to such immunities. So basically, they have to violate a state or constitutional right in order to be held civilly or legally culpable. So it's basically the House Democrats, one House Democrat, and I can't remember who it was, called it basically a Kill Black People Act. And I'm afraid that's going to be the result of this bill, is that cops know they have nothing to lose by shooting first and asking questions later.
Yeah. No. There's no reason to suspect otherwise, that people of color are going to be disproportionately hurt by this. And you know what though, white folks out there, cops shoot y'all too, just so you know, if you didn't know. So yeah. But something from the previous week that caught my attention, as we're kind of jumping around here, there's this bill, which HB 509 by Jeff Searles from Hartford, a Republican, prohibits Alabama state agencies from killing, testing, or restricting the transfer of game breeder owned cervids like deer due to disease, except in specific cases. And I don't know if you heard about them zombie deer out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this seems, because I looked up, read through the bill a little bit, and I didn't see the mention of prions or zombie deer. So, it's sounds like these landowners are gonna be able to just keep having hunters out there killing deer and eating them when they could be diseased. And if y'all don't know, the prion is pretty nasty stuff. It's like fire don't even kill it type nasty stuff. And there hasn't been any cases of it spreading to a person in Alabama, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. But so what else are we looking at?
So I think it's important to maybe to give a final overview of what passed and over the course of the session, and also what didn't pass.
Yeah.
So when we talk about what passed, in the plus column, there was, so on one hand, the Republicans did allow the tax on overtime pay, or the tax repeal on overtime pay, to expire. So overtime pay is being taxed again. But in exchange, we got 1% off of the state grocery tax.
3 down to 2.
Right. So bringing it down to 2%. They also ended the pink tax, which removes the sales tax from feminine hygiene products, maternity items, and baby goods, including diapers and formula. So there are those things. Alabama teachers and state employees now have paid parental leave. So that is a positive development. Teachers and state employees will receive 100% of their base pay while on leave, with the benefit extending to parents adopting a child less than 3 years old. There was also the pharmacy payment bill, and this is something that pharmacists in the state had been complaining about, the reimbursement rates from the organization. I forget what the organizations are called, but basically they were being driven out of, local pharmacies are being driven out of business by bad reimbursement rates. So the state pharmacy benefit managers, that's what they're called. So the state will now require pharmacy benefit managers to reimburse independent pharmacies for drugs at an equal amount or above what is paid by the Alabama Medicaid agency. So that currently includes a dispensing fee of $10.64 per prescription. So that will help. That will help local and hometown pharmacies all over the state stay in business, according to Garland Gudger from Coleman.
Yeah, we've moved over to a family-owned pharmacy a while ago, and I encourage everybody else out there to do the same.
So we've already talked about House Bill 202, which was passed in the very last minutes of the session on Wednesday night and then signed by KIV on Thursday, which would expand civil and criminal immunity for cops. Another part of the anti-crime package was the bill to ban the Glock switches, which is something they got done. So,
well, and as far as them Glock switches go, I can't remember the acronym for it, but I think it's FTR triggers are now the new thing out there. Have you seen these?
I haven't, but I'm not a big gun person, so I don't know about guns.
So yeah, I mean, it pretty much turns a weapon into a fully automatic rifle, and I have to assume there's not any legislation against it as of right now. But
do you mean an FRT, a forced reset?
Thank you, FRT. Thank you, force reset trigger. And yeah, it turns it into an automatic. So I guess we by their logic, we should be seeing that in the bill coming up, but we shall see. We shall see.
So there are also a couple of anti-immigrant bills that made it through the legislature, including Senate Bill 53 to mandate local law enforcement verify arrested individuals' immigration status and criminalize the transportation of undocumented immigrants into the state. And a bill that would strengthen laws prohibiting undocumented immigrants from voting and require law enforcement to collect DNA samples, which we talked about. And Ivy has signed all of these bills into law earlier this week. So yeah, lawmakers last month gave final approval to a possible additional $500 million loan for prison construction. So they previously had approved the building of 2 new 4,000-bed prisons, but the first one under construction has cost more than expected, just over $1 billion. So
our old little double C cots.
Yes.
Yeah, I expect the price of those to also rise again. They're notorious for going over budget.
Yeah. There was the Veterans Department reorganization after the head of the commissioner of the department got into a dust up with KIV. KIV voted or wanted legislation to make the governor appoint the commissioner instead of it being, I think it was chosen by the commission itself. And so Ivy first dismissed the Veterans Affairs Commissioner that was there, and
I think he sued.
Yeah, he sued, but the legislature has already made it so where Ivy gets to appoint a successor, and they've signed that into law, and she's already appointed his successor.
Yeah.
So
executive supremacy.
Right. The What is a Woman bill passed this session, declaring that there are only two sexes, and it defines them in the state statute. So it's an anti-trans bill for no good reason, just culture war nonsense. Juneteenth will officially be a state holiday this year, starting this year. So it'll be a state holiday.
All right. So we got another holiday, folks. I'm all for that. Maybe we can get to a voting holiday soon. But yeah, Juneteenth, let's go.
So they were able to pass the budgets. That's the only thing they're actually required to do each year is pass the general fund budget and the education budget. They sent Ivy record budgets this year: 3.8 billion in the general fund and 9.9 billion in the education spending.
I think there was something like a 6% increase, something along those lines.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, education costs what it costs.
Well, and you get your money back.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. I think it's something like a 400% rate of return on investing in education.
And not just telling them to get married before they have kids.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, that, like, where's the bill that makes it illegal for child marriage? Because Alabama is one of the states where like someone as young as like 15, I think, can get married, which is abhorrent, just absolutely horrible.
I think you can marry at 14 in the state of Alabama.
Oh God.
Jeez.
And it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So starting in October, all smartphones and tablets will be required to have obscene content filters automatically enabled for minors. So they were able to get that passed. I don't know if Ivy assigned it or not yet. But manufacturers face civil penalties of up to $5,000 per violation, capped at $50,000 for non-compliance. So go ahead.
I was just thinking, well, what are they going to do with all the phones that the kids already got, or that are used, that folks buy?
So it says all smartphones and tablets. It doesn't say all smartphones and tablets sold after that date. Let me check the wording of the bill itself. So let's see. Oh, it defines the word internet. That's very helpful. So devices activated in the state. So it would apply to a device that gets activated after October the 1st.
Okay.
So what are they going to do? What are they going to do about the phones that exist now? They get grandfathered in.
Yeah, I kind of assume that, because that would be very hard to execute otherwise. So people will be passing down their porn phones to folks.
All right. So lastly, this is a setback. I saw several people complaining about this online. Ivy on Wednesday signed House Bill 455, which regulates THC products in the state. It puts a THC cap of 10 milligrams per serving for edibles and beverages, bans any-smokable hemp products, prohibits use for those under age 21, and limits THC productivity availability to specialty shops and dedicated areas of grocery stores. So it will also impose a 10% tax on the sale of all THC products, establish a licensing requirement for retailers, and impose severe civil and criminal penalties for retailer violations. So your gas station won't be able to sell these things anymore. You've got to go to the ABC store or to a specialty shop.
Well, I can definitely see why it caused such a hubbub. It's definitely going to affect a lot of, small businesses, because you see it more like at home-owned corner stores and whatnot. not really at like a Circle K or shit like that. But like, so I can see why it's gonna upset folks, especially the small business owners. You know, a lot of them, they're not getting rich, you know, running a gas station. Like, they're making a living, but you know, they're not they're not turning themselves into multimillionaires typically.
Yeah, there was a lot of concern about like gas stations and mom and pop shops that would be targeted by this. It just seems like an unnecessary restriction on the products. I mean, I'm okay with requiring licensing, and I'm even okay with taxing it. But the caps and the restrictions on who can sell seem unnecessary to me.
Uh, you know, selective government overreach.
Right. Brought to you by the Party of Small Government.
Yeah. Let me get your DNA.
I know, right? You look undocumented. So, but in the interest of celebrating what we were able to kill, there are always more bills that failed and passed. And there were a number of really bad bills that we were able to successfully run out the clock on. Number one was the Senate Bill 5, which would let the governor and legislative leadership appoint members of the Alabama Department of Archives and History Board. So this was because the Alabama Department of Archives and History dared to showcase LGBT history in the state. And so then it became, oh, this is a woke propaganda mill that we have to shut down. So new members are selected by the existing board and then confirmed by the Alabama Senate. And the Republicans tried to pass a bill that would let the governor choose them instead so they could stack it with Mom for Liberty types. And that bill was defeated. The sponsor, Chris Elliott, said he'll bring it back next year, but it ran out of time this year. We were able to kill it this time. And if we are dedicated to calling it again, we might be able to kill it again. The drag show ban in public libraries, which was worded in such a way that it would target ordinary trans people just living their lives. Like it defined drag as a performance of the quote unquote opposite gender with makeup or dress or clothing, and it defined drag queen in such a way that you could just be an ordinary trans person living your life and wearing clothing that matches your actual gender, and you'd run afoul of this law. But they stripped the version of the bill that they stripped the language that would apply to public schools, but kept the language that applied to libraries. So it was obviously an attempt to get shut down the drag reading in libraries, the drag story hour.
Yeah.
Along with, like, I'm sure being able to criminalize the mere existence of trans people was a perk for them. But the bill did not get anywhere.
No, and I think we know who we have to thank for stopping those. Shout out All Track.
Absolutely. Altrac has done amazing work. I totally did not expect, calling your legislature to accomplish anything. Like, you can't, but now I know better. You can't change their mind, but you can change their priorities. And they clearly didn't prioritize this culture war crap enough to get it passed.
It's almost like some of them are sensible, Well, almost.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Fair enough.
I think, well, I'm sure they're true believers in anti-trans bigotry and all this other stuff, but I'm willing to bet that a significant number of people are just cynically scapegoating trans people and personally don't care either way. I'm sure there's at least somebody who is just using them as a convenient
Well, there's several things that I saw some polls. Conservatives are in support of trans rights. They're tired of it. And they're also in support of Palestinian folks and are tired of Israel's shit. Like, these are conservatives and conservatives that have been polled. So people get tired of this shit, because it's bullshit.
It's useful to have that other that you can demonize and blame them for all the problems. I mean, it's just it's the classic fascist playbook, right? Blaming minorities for your problems.
But even a majority of Americans aren't down with all the nonsense taking place with immigration. So they speak loud. They're on the TVs. They get on these podcasts and stuff. But even their constituents, even the conservative constituents, are tired of it, which gives me some hope.
Yeah, I hope so as well.
Yeah.
So lastly, House Bill 244, the Don't Say Gay bill, which would have expanded prohibited gender ideology or sexual orientation instruction at public schools. So there would be no mention of gay issues or gay people. It would prohibit teachers from displaying pride flags or insignias, and teachers and school staff could mispronoun and dead name people.
Well, don't that mean that a student could sit there and use the wrong pronoun on their coach and whatnot? I'm sure. I mean, I can definitely imagine some kids doing that.
The bill was written to say pronouns inconsistent with a student's biological sex. So they can interpret that as saying you have to call the coach by he, him, if that's what he is. But
I don't know that. They don't know that. They got to inspect their genitals first.
Right, I guess
before we can get confirmation on that. They could be. Let's be logical about this. Full genital inspections on all, staff, so we can make sure we know what their pronouns are too.
Fair point. Anyway, the bill failed. Like, it got through the House, it got through a Senate committee, but the Senate failed to pass it, so it died. So those were some bills.
For now, good.
For now. I'm sure we'll have to fight this battle again, but the point is that we can win this battle. This is not the first time we've defeated this bill.
No,
and it won't be the last. So, no. But calling your congressman can, like, you may not change their mind, but you can change their priorities, and you can get them to say, "Hey, this isn't worth the hassle of going through when there are other bigger fish to fry." So, parole reform didn't happen either this time. I was disappointed by that. Although the state legislature has been threatening the parole board to either to publish their guidelines and follow them, or else they'll lose funding, which I was happy to see, since the Alabama's Board of Pardons and Paroles is basically just outright flouting the legislature and approving as few people as they can possibly get away with for parole in violation of their own.
It was something at like 3 to 6% at one point. I think it's gone up since then, but yeah.
Yeah, 8% in 2023. So, and the recommended grant rate is from their own guidelines is 81%.
That's so crazy, the disparity.
Right. So there has been some noise from the Alabama legislature threatening to strip the Alabama Board of Pardons and Paroles of money if they don't get their act together. And I was happy to see that. And I hope that and that's coming from Republican senators and congressmen. So I was glad to see that. Hopefully they'll follow through on those threats and get this Lee Gaffney woman under control.
Mm. Yeah. She fucking sucks.
Yeah, she's pretty bad. Oh, one other bill that failed: the religious instruction during the school day. So this was a high profile bill that Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth really tried to get. He tried to use what star power he has to get it through. That would require public schools to allow release time for religious instruction. So it did not pass. So and so when it didn't, Ainsworth went on social media posts and said, "Oh, these tax-funded lobbyists killed a bill allowing Bible study and character education as an elective course." Like, so
yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to see a bill that's like study all religion. That'd be fine. You know, hit Buddhism.
yeah, like have some basic religious literacy. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So those are the bills that we were able to successfully kill this year through a combination of them running out of time and us putting pressure on them, and thanks to Alltrack for the work they've done in killing these anti-LGBT bills. The "What is a Woman" bill passed, but it got a shout out from Kay Ivey during the State of the State speech, and so I think it would have been much harder to defeat because they had some juice for getting that done. But we were able to kill the other two bills, so there is that. Like, the fight is not completely hopeless. We can win, even if it's small wins. And that is your Alabama legislative session for 2025. So I guess it's just me again. It is 9:37. I don't know if I should continue or not. That was basically all the material I had prepared, was talking about what the Alabama legislature got up to this past session, what they did recently, what they did over the course of the session, and some prominent bills that failed that we wanted to see fail, which fortunately did. That is all I had. Shout out to the state Democrats for actually kind of, even if it was for the wrong reason, they kind of did something and filibustered the Senate and held up a bunch of local bills, which helped them run at a time for some of these other bad bills. So I wish they had done it for some reason other than the gambling bill. Like, it would have been nice if they had filibustered because there's these anti-trans bills coming through, or there's these anti-immigration bills coming through. Let's filibuster for the sake of those. But no, they were mad about not being able to bet on horse racing in Greene County and Greene County only. Which, okay, we'll take what we can get, I guess. I still haven't decided how I feel about gambling. Like, on the one hand, and I've said this before, on the one hand, I personally love to gamble. I love to go to the casinos. I love the table games. That's my jam. But on the other hand, it seems to be like an industry that preys on the poor. And in the words of Robert De Niro's character from Casino, like, it's selling dreams for cash. And it seems to prey on the most vulnerable, and they make most of their money from people who are addicted to gambling. So I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I'd want to see casinos come to Alabama any more than they already have. So yeah, we got started a bit late, but I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And so As we always say, all the power to all the people. Solidarity forever.
Hey, folks, what do you know? Another computer crash. So, yeah, thank you, Jason, uh, for riding us out. And, you know, we had a few more things to go over. There's some stuff coming up in June 6th. There's a event for veterans up here at Straight to Ale from 5 to 7, looking for volunteers. June 14th, across the nation, there's 5051 protests. There's June 21st, People's Movement Assembly part, or the Southern Movement Assembly, part of the People's Movement Assembly. June 21st is having an event, and yeah, um, we'll see y'all soon. You know, as we say around here, all the power to all the people. We the people break our chains together. Solidarity forever, y'all. Peace.